Emma believed that love was meant to be simple. She taught English at a small seaside school, living a quiet life filled with books, the sound of waves, and warm cups of tea. Her heart had never rushed for excitement, it longed for peace. Then Daniel entered her life, soft-spoken, with a camera always hanging from his neck and eyes that saw beauty in everything ordinary. He took photos of the sea, of old streets, of Emma when she wasn't looking. They met one rainy afternoon at a cafe when Emma offered him her spare napkin. He smiled and said, "Thank you," as though the moment itself was worth remembering. From then, they met often, first by chance, then by choice. Their talks flowed easily, about dreams, art, and how love can grow quietly like a flower in spring. Emma listened when Daniel spoke of distant cities he wanted to capture through his lens, and he listened when she read lines from her favorite poems. Their love wasn't loud. It lived in morning walks by the sea, in notes left on the kitchen table, in shared laughter over simple meals. Each day felt safe, like home. Daniel often said, "I never knew calm could feel this beautiful." Emma would smile, believing that calmness was the truest sign of love. But time has its way of testing hearts. Love that starts pure must learn to survive change. Emma didn't know that the same waves they watched together would soon carry her peace away. She looked at Daniel across the table one evening, his smile fading into thought. Something unseen had shifted in the air. She told herself it was nothing. But deep down, she felt it, the beginning of a distance she could not yet name. When Daniel received an offer to photograph in Paris, Emma felt proud. She knew how much his work meant to him. "Go," she said softly, "and bring back stories." He kissed her forehead, promising it would only be 3 months. They both believed distance could never touch what they had built. At first, their love traveled easily through calls and messages. He sent her pictures of city lights and crowded cafes. She sent him short voice notes before bed. But slowly, silence began to replace words. Daniel stayed busy, or so he said. Emma waited for his messages longer each night. The sound of her phone became the sound of hope. Days passed without a call, and when he finally spoke, his voice felt tired, distracted. She told herself he was just working hard. Still, something small and sharp started growing inside her, fear or maybe doubt. In Paris, Daniel met Clara, another photographer. She was quick-witted, full of stories, the kind of person who made everything feel alive. They talked after work, laughed easily, and shared ideas that stretched late into the night. Daniel didn't plan to feel drawn to her. It simply happened, like a spark catching unnoticed. He missed Emma, but not in the same way anymore. He began to forget the quiet warmth of home, the way Emma's silence had always understood him better than words. Emma, meanwhile, wrote in her journal, "Love feels distant when the sky looks the same, but the heart doesn't." She waited, believing the man she loved would come back unchanged. Yet deep within, she sensed that when Daniel returned, he would bring back more than just photographs. He would bring back a different version of himself. Daniel returned home in late spring. The air was warm, but between them, a quiet chill lingered. He smiled, but his eyes carried a shadow Emma had never seen before. He brought her a silver bracelet from Paris, delicate and lovely, yet it felt like a gift meant to fill silence, not celebrate love. Emma thanked him, pretending not to notice how his touch had changed, softer, uncertain, distant. At night, Daniel often stared at his phone. He said it was work, but Emma saw the faintest smile cross his face when a message appeared. Something inside her broke quietly. She didn't ask questions, she simply watched him drift further away. Days became polite routines, shared meals without laughter, mornings without warmth. Emma could feel love slipping through her fingers, but she held on, hoping memory could save what time had already taken. One evening, as Daniel showered, his phone lit up on the table. A short message appeared, "I miss you. Clara." Emma froze. The words were small, but they carried a truth too heavy to deny. She didn't read more. She didn't need to. Her heart filled with a silence louder than any argument. When Daniel came out, she was sitting quietly with the bracelet in her hand. She looked at him, searching for the man who once promised her forever. He opened his mouth to speak, but no excuse could fit between them. Emma said nothing. That night, she walked to the shore, listening to the sea whisper what she already knew. Love had been betrayed, not through anger, but through forgetfulness. The waves moved endlessly, washing away footprints, as if to remind her that even the deepest love can fade when one heart stops returning home. Morning light crept through the curtains when Emma decided it was time to speak. Daniel sat at the table, his hands clasped, eyes fixed on nothing. She didn't accuse or shout. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. "We lost our way, didn't we?" Daniel's eyes filled with regret before the words could form. He confessed everything, how loneliness had met temptation, how one mistake had turned into silence. His voice trembled, not from fear of losing her, but from the weight of realizing he already had. Emma listened quietly, her heart aching but steady. She didn't cry. She had done that already, in the nights she waited for messages that never came. Forgiveness came to her not as mercy but as release. She told him, "I forgive you, but I can't stay inside what's already broken." He reached for her hand, but she pulled away softly, not in anger, but in acceptance. That evening, she wrote him a note. "Love doesn't vanish when people part. It ends when we stop caring for it." She placed it beside the bracelet and left the house without looking back. Daniel sat in the quiet that followed, the kind of silence that no photograph could capture. Days turned into weeks. Emma found peace in solitude, learning that love's end isn't always tragedy, it can also be truth. Daniel kept her last note on his desk, reading it whenever the world felt empty. He understood too late that real love isn't found in passion or beauty, but in the choice to stay when life becomes ordinary. The sea still whispered outside their town, unchanged, eternal. Somewhere between memory and forgiveness, their story rested, proof that love, even when lost, leaves behind a lesson strong enough to be remembered forever.